Hey, we're back on a Saturday afternoon for Shakedown News Live. It's me again, Billy. I'm here at the home studio. Good to be home. And it is the 8th of August, which means we are nearing the end of the days between, which is the 9 days between the August 1st and August 9th, Jerry's birthday, and the day passed. And everybody's been doing all kinds of Jerry stuff all week. We've been sharing their stories. Last week we had Cubensis on here talking about their experience with the Grateful Dead music and with Jerry. And I thought, while everybody's playing Jerry music and talking about the Dead and all that stuff, there's one little tiny aspect of Jerry that nobody touches on much. And that brought me to today's guest, which we will get to in a minute. But that little aspect of Jerry is the difficult to play, often referred to as the cheese grater, the finger killer, that's the pedal steel guitar. And Jerry wasn't the greatest at it, but he was the most unique at it. So before we get into all that, I got to be honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of streams this week. I had other things that going on that I had to take care of with working some shows and some other streams. And I just didn't get it. When I got home, I just wanted to sit down and veg out, and I didn't get a chance to really chew on any of the live streams. So apologize for not giving you the weekly recap, but there really wasn't. There's not. I think the weekly recap for most of us was we listened to a bunch of Jerry. That's pretty much it. So before I get into my guest, I want to share a video that I queued up, and this is Jerry 1987, right after, and we'll talk about this when we come back in. But it's Jerry with Bob Dylan playing pedal steel. I just want to play a little bit of it so we get a vibe of Jerry behind the pedal steel, and then we'll get into it. So, without further ado, here is a little bit of Jerry on pedal steel.
Shut the light, shut the door. Don't have to worry anymore.
right. Well, that is. Let me stop that. That's a little bit of Jerry, and we bring in. Let me turn his mic on, Mr. Joel Martin. There he is. What's up, Joel?
What's up, Paula?
Well, it's nice to come start with some Jerry on during day. Start with some Jerry on Days Between.
Good thing to do.
Yeah. Now we were talking right before. We'll get into everything. I mean, we got an hour to talk, but right before this, we're talking about that video, and there's something you mentioned that this was '87, which was right before or right after Jerry came out of his coma, and he had not only relearned how to play guitar, but he also learned to play the pedal steel.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. My understanding of when he came out of the coma is that he had lost that ability to really play music, and so he had to go work extensively to get his guitar chops back and music chops in general back, and then that courageous dude is out there a year later playing pedal steel with Bob Dylan. I mean, they put together a little mini set in that tour where Jerry would play pedal steel, which just is an incredibly fascinating, beautiful thing, a portrait of him as a musician anyway, because, not for those few minutes, he almost stops being Jerry Garcia, superstar, Grateful Dead persona, and he's really Bob Dylan's session man for 3 songs,
Right.
He's just on the side. And so, it's difficult because you can tell that he's kind of struggling in those clips, but yeah, he's struggling. It's a hard instrument, and there he is doing it. It's amazing that he was doing it. So just love him.
Well, that interview with David Crosby that was on the Shakedown stream a couple weeks ago, where he was talking about Jerry coming into the studio with him and Crosby, Stills, Nash to record Teach Your Children. And he said Jerry really didn't know how to play pedal steel, but he said, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." And the way Crosby described it, if you guys haven't seen it, go back on the YouTube and look for the pre-show Shakedown stream from I think 2 weeks ago, not this past Friday, 2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, three ago. There was last night. Mickey was the week before.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see David Crosby talking about Jerry coming in and recording with them, and how he didn't play the pedal steel like anybody else played the pedal steel. He played the melody instead. He wasn't playing like, oh, okay, here's the this is how to do it. Like he didn't look and see how somebody else did it. He just kind of figured it out. And that's an instrument you need to use your feet, your hands, and your knees. So to be able to just sit down and just do it blows me away. I don't know how you do it.
I don't either. I mean, I'm still working on it. Every it's a fight every time I get around it. It's like, okay, what are we doing today? You're going to be all right. So I mean,
that's an amazing instrument. There's photos of you out there with is that the green one that you have that are there? The one that's like green, purple inlay? Yeah.
Yep.
That is just a gorgeous looking instrument.
Well, the story with this, and for my, if I have friends that have come in and are watching this, I'm going to bore them silly with the story for the 18,000th time. But this guitar is actually about 20 serial numbers away from Jerry's first one that he bought. And it's a real holy grail guitar. I never imagined that I would get to own one because, it was made in late 1968. And this brand is particularly kind of an oddball, and they didn't really survive very well. So it's very difficult to find one that's playable. And I had found this right after it had gotten refinished and kind of refurbished and pimped out, and it's just in beautiful shape. It's kind of the Les Paul of pedal steels, for those people that play guitars, like Nigel Tufnell says in Spinal Tap, you can go away and have a bite and you'll still be hearing it. It's just a tremendously large brick of wood, and so it's very resonant, very sustaining. I just love it to death. To me, it's the sound of pedal steels. And you know, it's interesting because it's a ZB, that's the brand ZB. It's for this guy Zane Beck, and his biggest client. Really, a lot of Nashville people were playing them, but Tom Brumley from the Buckaroos, from Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, was his biggest client, and they were doing a lot of creative things. So like is actually it's a double neck, but it has 11 strings, which was completely uncommon at the time. Most pedal steels have 10 strings, and then kind of in the 70s,
it really does go to 11
strings. But 11 strings was unheard of.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the reason is because, you know, Tom Brumley wanted to do all the riff rock. So, you know, pedal steels don't have, you know, if this is your shape where you're playing, the lowest note would be this, which is, you know, kind of the dominant or the fifth, the 5-chord, you know. But this was built with an 11 string, so I have the lowest thing. So I can go. So, you know, Tom Brumley would be able to cover the riffs when Don Rich, the guitarist in the Buckaroos, stopped playing the riffs and went to solo. You know, he could just be. You know, he would be able to cover that low register. So anyway, in April of 1969, Jerry was out on tour with the Dead, and they were in Colorado, and he stopped. He was obsessed with Tom Brumley, and he was out on the road with the Dead, and he really wanted. There's some writing about him and his close pal there in the Bay Area scene, Peter Grant, who plays some pedal steel on Oxymoxoa. I think I got that right. They grew up and talked about how amazing pedal steel was, and Jerry always wanted to play it. And so finally, the time was right, and he bought a ZB and took it home and just shedded. That's like all he did. And the first session he did was that Jefferson Airplane record, because the other incredible thing that happened is that Wally Hyder Recording Studio opened up in San Francisco. The very first commercial recording studio in San Francisco. And so everybody flocked to it. So the Airplane were there. The Dead started doing all of their stuff there. You know, they had just recorded Working Man's Dead, and they got to start working on American Beauty there. Jerry's first solo album, Bob's first solo album, Mickey's first solo album were all done there at Wally's. And the vibe was incredible in the air. And CSNY were in doing Deja Vu in Wally Hyder's. And so Jerry was there. He was just around. So it was very natural to have Jerry come in and play. And he had just been working on, he decided pretty much to start up New Riders of the Purple Sage, just to be an excuse for him to play pedal steel. So, you know, they were starting to record. The Dead would take New Riders out on tour, so Jerry could play pedal steel first, and then he would play a little pedal steel when the Dead would have their acoustic sets. But I mean, because of Wally's opening up the way that it did, it just gave the community access to Jerry, and Jerry access to these opportunities. So if you look at his discography, you know, his personal pedal steel discography, there's actually a great playlist someone made up on YouTube. He was on like 20 records in a year and a half. Just random, you know, David Crosby's solo record, Graham Nash's solo record. Just did all this stuff. And
well, if you're the only guy doing it,
unfortunately,
I said if you're the only guy doing it.
What'd you say, Billy?
If you're the only guy in town doing it,
exactly,
you're gonna show up. You know, it's you're gonna be on everybody's stuff, and we're, you know, that's awesome, because it's like we talked about, it's an instrument that pretty much held exclusive spot in the country music world, right? The pedal steel, it was like exclusively.
Well, you really couldn't have. You know, if you think about
it, wasn't a rock and roll
country music. You really couldn't have. Yeah, you couldn't have a country band from, you know, really 1960 really into the late 50s, people were playing lap steels. And it wasn't until the late 50s that, someone really put, a pedal on a lap steel and decided to try to make that kind of thing work. So people started, all kinds of different companies were making pedal steels by the late 50s and early 60s, small makers. And it just became the sound. And so if you had a country band, then you really had to have a steel player. And people got so good so quick. I mean, I don't really think that there's been much progressing since the late 60s for pedal steel, to be honest, because even though technology has certainly changed, people were kind of allowed to play more. I mean, when you listen to like those Conway Twitty records or Kitty Wells records, I mean, like there's serious shredding. I mean, it's like the Yngwie Malmsteen and pedal steel stuff going on in the background. And then, once people started having hits and stuff in the 70s and country was such a big business, producers kind of got in the way and, we'll tuck the steel player back in the mix, and you don't really get to do that. And then, unfortunately, I might take some heat for this, but it's like there hasn't been another generation of steel players that have really, been so excellent. I mean, on a large schemings, there's great players all around everywhere, but it's not like, it's a weird thing because even though a lot of people will go, pedal steel, it's my favorite instrument in the world, who could name 5 pedal steel players? Can
I can name like
the
3.
The 5 pedal steel players they like?
Maybe 4.
And those 3 might not really be real pedal steel players, like, I mean, Robert Randolph plays what's called sacred steel. So he's using the pedal steel more like a lap steel. Like he doesn't really use the pedal. He has a tuning setup where he could play really fast without using the pedals. And, like he's not going to go do a country session for someone and have it work out well. Same thing with, like, I love Daniel Lanois. Huh?
Barry Sless. Barry Sless does.
Incredible.
Yeah. And he does both. He's not a dedicated pedal guy. He plays guitar. Right. He plays, yeah. And I can think of one more, Bob Bernstein. Boo Bernstein.
You know Boo.
I do cool. from a long time ago,
Yeah.
but I know, and he's amazing also.
He's totally fantastic. Amazing. He's legit, like an old school steel player. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Here's Buddy Cage and Sneaky Pete.
Scott's online. Yeah. So, just to get back to Jerry, yeah. I mean, one of the most beautiful Grateful Dead documents that we have in the canon to watch, of course, is a Festival Express movie.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And,
yeah.
That is fun because what's really happening on that train is that Jerry has his steel there for the Dead set. He is literally meeting Buddy Cage there. Buddy Cage was on tour with Ian and Sylvia. He was their pedal steel player. And so when you see those jams happening, that's literally him meeting Buddy Cage. And unfortunately, it kind of spooked the hell out of him because, he was just like, shit, this is what people are doing on the steel. And also Sneaky Pete was on that tour too. So in that one Festival Express tour, you had 3 of the best, examples of what pedal steel would be in 1970 there on the train, Jerry, Buddy, and Sneaky. And so when Jerry decided that playing steel with the New Riders was too much for him, he recommended Buddy Cage. So that's how Buddy Cage got into the New Riders, because of that tour and that experience.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's a whole host of historical knowledge right there. I love it. That's fantastic.
I know. I'm a super geek, and I went out into this to try to find out the most I could.
You love your instrument. Yeah. I said you love the instrument. You play guitar, you play piano, but that's your primary.
Well, time and life are two really bizarre things, and you don't really know where you're going all the time. And when I grew up playing guitar.
Right.
I've been playing guitar since I was 11. I've done a lot of professional work and been a band leader on guitar. And once I got the steel bug, I was so into it. And frankly, there's so many great guitarists out there in the world. I kind of felt like, I live in Los Angeles. I live in the Valley. There's probably 20 excellent guitarists on my block. So I kind of felt like, what can I do for the world? And and then also what could be lucrative for me? And so I just dove into playing pedal steel. I really felt like I had. Not to talk it up too much, but I just felt like I had a little bit of a perspective on where it could go. And
Sure.
What the current scene is, I don't really enjoy a lot. So I felt like I could be kind of an interesting person in the scene, and so I've just been working on it. Contrary to what I might have believed at one point, pedal steel did not lead me to sitting on a pile of cash, not on a mountain of money. But it's amazing. It's neat because we're on the side generally. That's our sort of role most of the time, and I get to kind of get plugged into really cool situations that as a guitarist you wouldn't really get to experience most of the time, because most people play guitar and most bands have a guitarist, but there are so few steel players out here that just in our community, I get to go out and that's how I ended up really becoming chummy with the Higgs, and Cubensis. It's like I was on gigs with the Alpine Camp, and people are like, "Hey, why don't you just come in and play?" And of course, they're probably not going to do that with another guitarist or something, but,
right?
Because
this
other thing that happens, I can kind of be a feature, not be a feature, support, whatever it takes. And so
it adds such a nice something, but you add something extra to it because you play with actual, no, because it's you. No, you play with actual guitar pedals and big effects into the pedal steel on top of, you're not just pushing the pedals and moving your knees and making the strings go. You're throwing some serious shit on that. Like you're putting some icing and gravy on that, or as you're throwing stank on it.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I love it, and that's the funny thing. Because as you can kind of got the vibe. I love the history and what the great steel players in the past have done. And in the 60s and the 70s, all the great cats were doing the weirdest stuff to this. For some reason, that all stopped in the mid 70s, kind of.
Disco doesn't like pedal steel.
It's so weird. In the 60s, Buddy Emmons, the great Buddy Emmons, he played through fuzz all the time. He flew, big delays and echoplexes. The great Rusty Young of Poco used to run his guitar through a Leslie rotating speaker like an organist.
I love that sound. I love hearing a guitar through a Leslie. It's so awesome.
It's the best.
I don't know why more don't do it.
It's gone viral, so a lot of people might have seen it. But the great session steel guitarist Pete Drake used a talk box like Joe Walton did.
Yeah.
The 50s, early 60s, maybe. I'm sorry, early 60s. So there's a great video of Pete Drake using a talk box, wah, 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 on country standards from the early 60s.
Wow.
It's so awesome.
Yeah,
so
that
basically,
is awesome.
I mean, I really like. I mean, that's the kind of guitar I played growing up, was expansive guitar with effects and lots of things. I've always enjoyed looping, and so to me, it's just completely natural to do it on steel as well.
Nate just jumped on, says, hey. Nate LaPointe. He says, hey, fellas.
Hey, Nate, what's up? How you doing? Man, I had a good time playing with Nate last night. That's really one of the fun blessings in this entire experience is, like Nate and I have this great sort of handshake on Fridays. The passing of the Grateful Dead baton. He does his really fun show generally from 7 to 9, and then I do mine right after him, and we try to, overlap a little where on my page we'll actually play music. And what's great is that Nate is such an incredible musician. People do not realize that he can't hear me at all. He's just playing and kind of imagining what it would be like to have another person there.
Right.
And then I'm taking over from there and trying to, like, if I hear him going for something, I'll back up and try to support that. And likewise, I'll take over where I think he's giving me room. And so we've done a lot. I mean, almost every week for 21 weeks.
Yeah, crazy that we've been in this.
Yeah, I think there's only been two Friday nights where we haven't gotten to play, and that's because we were both doing other larger shows, like when Nate and Craig from Cubensis did their duo show.
Oh yeah,
out in the world.
At Project Barley. Project Barley, I got to give them a shout out. They're great. They host some great shows, and they provide me with amazing beer. So yeah, yours. It's called the Freak Out Friday. That's not your only show. You do other ones. You do almost not every night, but you do four or 5 nights a week.
Oh, what? Your connection's a little scratchy sometimes.
I said
you. I am.
Kind of both. I said you do more than Friday. You do a couple of shows a week. What nights do you do your shows? When do you do your show?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, like I literally started doing this on accident. I had, this our pandemic situation went down, and I mean, I imagine a lot of us were put in weird places immediately, and that weekend of March 12th and 13th, I've been doing a day job for a little while, doing some video editing, and I lost the job and I lost all of the gigs. Like, I got home from work that Thursday night and just got text after text of all my gigs getting canceled for March and April, and just couldn't believe it. I mean, just one after the other all Friday night. Went to work Thursday night. I went to work Friday, got home, more gigs were getting canceled, and then over the weekend I got let go from my job. So it was really immediately difficult. And that Monday morning, I went to Trader Joe's here in Sherman Oaks and was waiting in line, which was a new thing. You go to Trader Joe's, and it was the first day of there being this huge line. So I'm there for 2 hours. And when I got out, this guy comes up and he's, I have a bunch of stickers on my car, that are Deadhead related. And this guy comes up to me, he's like, "Is that your car on the?" I don't know. Maybe it's hippie profiling. For some reason, he thought I would be the guy with the Grateful Dead stickers.
It's the glasses.
So, I don't know why. So he comes up and he's like, "Are you the guy there with the car on the corner?" And I'm like thinking, like, great, what happened? Someone hit it, what's going on, with my luck. And
just pile it on top.
Like, well, I'm a Deadhead too, and and I'm like, "Oh, what's your deal?" And like, us musicians kind of have a thing where it's like we can kind of tell. So I was like, "You play music?" And he was like, "Yeah, I play bass." And I'm like, "This guy's a bass player in LA who likes the Grateful Dead, and I don't know him. That's weird." And so I'm like, "Who are you?" And it turns out he's the great Paul Ill, which I think a lot of people around the South Bay will know him. He's kind of a bass playing legend in our community. Um, but the funny thing is that I had actually done a tour with him in 2004, but now he's let his hair grow out and he's gotten hippified as well. Like neither one of us recognized each other because we've become hippies in the last 15 years, And I mean, before I kept my hippiedom in my heart, it was hidden. But now we were like, oh, what's your deal? And so anyway, Paul was like, well, shit, all my gigs got canceled. And I was like, all my gigs got canceled. And he was like, we should put a killer band together and play this week and do something online. And the thought had never occurred to me before that. So we scheduled it for that Friday, the 20th. And I spent every second of that entire week putting a band together and working out the technical details. I had never live streamed anything on any platform at that point. So we went through a bunch of crap with YouTube, trying to make that work, trying to figure out how we were going to do it. And as much of, an amateur as I was at this, I was the only one that was doing it. So everybody elected to use my Facebook for the show. So Alex Koford was going to do it. Alex is, kind of legendary with Phil and Friends and, has been around our community a lot. He was going to do it. And so anyway, Thursday night comes and Thursday is when our governor and our mayor both put the first stay-at-home orders out.
So
our
that got canceled.
Instantly canceled. No one, just 24 short hours away, and we were canceled, and nobody felt comfortable doing it. We were getting a lot of hassle from, warm-hearted hassle from friends that were just like, you guys can't be in a room together, you can't do it. So we canceled, but then all we had done that week was all this promo, and I was looking at having a bunch of people come to my Facebook page that I didn't know, and I was like, shit, I better get something together. And so I spent all day Friday kind of assembling, what now is the deal, and had such an amazing time doing that show. It just felt like a really good kind of calling, and my friends were so supportive that tuned in. Everybody said, you should do this every day. And I'm just like, well, I don't have that kind of time or brain capacity to make that work. But basically, I try to make it happen as much as possible. The Friday night show, the Friday Freak Out is sort of the mother show. That's the big show of the week. It gets really fun, really weird. It's, they got the tie-in with Nate's show. That's great. And then on Tuesday, I do a thing called Tuesday Tunes and Loops, which started out just kind of mellow, like me just playing songs that I like and singing them. And that might sound like, well, you're a musician, what else do you do? But like if you've seen the Friday Freakout, it's a lot of crazy loops and textures and improvisations and a host of instruments. Everything gets really weird. But then I started doing the Tuesday Tunes and Loops, and that's become a theme day. So I started doing all these themes. Like I've done a Willie Nelson show, a Peter Gabriel show, an old soul tribute show that I made a BLM, a fundraiser that was just really great. And then now that we're in the days between, I made last week and next week Jerry days. So last Tuesday I did American Beauty in its entirety. And this Tuesday coming up, I'm doing Working Man's Dead in its entirety. So,
cool.
Those are really fun and challenging things. I mean, because I've spent most of the last 20 years having sort of two musical lives. Like I do freelance music where you can hire me to play pedal steel for you or whatever, or guitar. But then also I've had bands that have been more power pop bands, you know, because that's sort of what I grew up on and got really into. So you know, I've spent the last 20 years writing my own tunes and singing my own tunes. I don't know a lot of material. I don't know a lot of crazy songs, you know. So every week I have to learn 15, maybe more songs.
But it's you're
And
adding to your.
since this whole oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great opportunity. I mean, I've learned over 300 songs since the end of March. I mean, you know, I think I'm
Wow.
at last Friday. Yeah, last Friday was 300 songs, and already we're at like 320 or something. So, you know, it's wild. It's great for me. It's a wonderful experience. But it's like these are songs that I've never sung before. Even the wonderful classics that we all know and love. Like I've never sat down and sang Ripple. You know, so this is a really great opportunity for me. And yeah, yeah, it's just a and you know you just the great thing is as a musician. Oh, this is a fun question we can kind of talk about. Um, um, you know, I was so excited by seeing my buddy Jared here.
Well,
I
and
have a
Jared's.
little,
I know Jared too. Small world.
huh?
I said I
Oh,
know
you do?
Jared. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Yeah, he's great.
Small world. Hey, Jared. So go in.
So,
Go into that. Yeah.
okay, so what Jared's talking about there is uh, there's a lot of fun stuff to cover in this topic because what he's talking about is Zach Hexum, and Zach Hexum is just a fascinating musician and a great, wonderful human being. He's definitely one of my favorite people that I've ever gotten to meet. But he is the younger brother of Nick Hexum, who's the main singer in 311.
Yeah.
And
311.
311.
311.
So you know, and you know, I grew up into art rock and prog rock and stuff. So you know, and Beatles and power pop and stuff. So to be honest, 311 was not exactly on my radar. And but in the late 90s, I met a absolutely incredible drummer named Luke Adams, who had just graduated from UNT, you know, the University of North Texas, that has, you know, one of the best music programs in the world. And Luke and I, let's see, I met him 3 weeks after he moved to LA, and we became really good friends. And we formed a band called Every Single Saturday with a great keyboardist named Zach Ray, who now he's in Death Cab for Cutie. But he's a first call keyboardist, incredible, great musician. And the three of us wanted to put a band together that was like Jellyfish. And, you know, it's just funny because that UNT community is so strong that within about 6 months, all of my best friends were musicians that had gone to UNT and moved to Los Angeles. So one of those cats is a great guy named Bill Shoup. And Bill and I went to go see, I think, John Bryan, the producer. He was having a residency at Spaceland, which has become the Satellite, which is just closed down. It's very sad. Um, and it was kind of funny because Zach was there with his brother Nick, and I met them, and you know, Zach was super cool. And like 2 days later, Zach at the Viper Room, they the drummer was Blair Cinta, who also is a UNT grad, and they were going to do a show with Zach playing guitar and Blair playing drums and Bill playing bass. And like the day before the show, they decided to bring me in on guitar. And so and it was the beginning of amazing, beautiful things. Um, we did a great record together called "The Story So Far" that Nick's label helped put out. and 311 just could not have been better to us that entire time. You know, we did a couple tours opening for 311. We played at the Wiltern, we played at the Fillmore.
Wow.
Just just amazing experiences. And the most interesting part of that, though, was in 2004. Nick really wanted to put a band. Nick wanted to go support Rock the Vote. He wanted to go out and support John Kerry. And being that, you know, 311 has their roots in you know, they're all from Omaha. I guess there are certain factions in the band that didn't want to go out and support the Democratic ticket. So Nick was in an interesting position, and he decided that he wanted to do a Rock the Vote tour and take Zach out on the road with his band. So they did a thing called the Hexam Brothers, and it was a completely amazing show. Like, we went out and played 1,000 or less seat theaters. Like, we played the Metro in Chicago, you know, a bunch of great places all the way. We targeted the red states and just went up through the Midwest and had a blast. And, you know, we played some 311 songs. We played some of Zach songs. And then the real kicker was both of them had picked all these incredible covers that you just maybe wouldn't think that Nick would be into. But, you know, he loves XTC. He loves, so we did some XTC. We did a bunch of Beatles. We did Radiohead. The set list was crazy good. Yeah, it was really amazing. And we even did a recording, which never came out, which was a real drag. I would have liked to have gotten that out in the world, but then he started back up with 311 and they got really active again. But it was fun. And then, you know, I played with Zach from 2002 to probably about 2008 or 9, and then Zach kind of retired to do film music and stuff. So he's been very active doing sort of behind the scenes music for a lot of TV shows and stuff. So I, you know, it's unfortunate that he doesn't do any gigs anymore, but he's still one of my favorite people.
He's still around.
Actually, yeah, he's still around, very active, doing great stuff. He has three beautiful kids, great wife, real cool dude. And we actually did a project together. They hired me to play pedal steel. I think he did a theme for he did some music for a Nickelodeon show. I can't remember what it is, though, unfortunately. But if you hear pedal steel on Nickelodeon, it's a good
was
chance
you.
that it's me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Yanked my ear, but I found something that I gotta get your explanation on this. Let me find it here. Explain that. That hair. This is what you're talking about. When was this? When was this?
Yeah, that was actually, this is a really fun, you know, recording of events, as it was, because for this photo session, it was the last time anybody's touched my hair. And that was November 2016. So I haven't had as much as a trim since November 2016.
Wow, 4 years.
Yeah, but you'll see a lot of pictures. I mean, even that stage, that was a year in the making. About you'll see. I was in a band called the Running Jumps. That was my band, and I think, you know, I looked quite different for that as well.
Yeah, I found when I was looking for a promo picture for this week, I was looking for something that represented you now, and I found quite a few of those old ones where I was like, you know, the short hair and the, like, definitely not looking like you are now. You know, give me a couple more months and mine will get to where yours is at. But no, never.
Let that free flag wave. Let it flow.
You know, it's getting long and it's driving me nuts. But you have one of the more recognizable heads of hair in the jam scene right now.
Well, you know, if you let it go, like that stage where you had that photo, that was really uncomfortable. I still remember it, like really not enjoying it. And once it gets to about here, it's
Yeah.
just like you don't even feel it anymore. It's great. So like it's
Right.
super comfortable. Like I don't have any plans of doing anything different.
Oh, good. Yeah, Jared, I love this hat. Jared was like, my hat rocks. I was like, yeah, I love this hat. I bought this.
Yeah.
I got this hat from a street vendor in Rome, like many years ago.
Whoa.
And it's made of paper. But
That's great.
well, we've made it this far without hearing a song from you. What do you want? You want to play a song, maybe?
Oh, I would love to. I'll play some
This is dealer's choice.
Okay. Well, let's see. Yeah, let me play something, and I'll give you a little taste of the, sort of the full experience of what I do at the shows. What I really like to do is, kind of start a beat, and let people kind of groove because, there's certainly a lot of really great talent out there doing live streams. And so, I just like to do stuff that's just a little different. And I have a bunch of good toys. So let's see.
While Joel's prepping for this, if you guys want to donate to the Joel Fund and the Shakedown News Fund, there's a PayPal and Venmo QR codes on the screen, and I will put the scroll across the bottom so you actually have what they are. Oh no, that's not it. Joel is Joel's personal one is at I Play Pedal Steel for Venmo, correct? That's you on
Pedal
Venmo.
Steel's my Venmo. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna add that in there. So while Joel's playing, if you feel like making a donation, make a donation, and we're just gonna turn it over to Joel and hear some music.
Highly welcomed and appreciated because the live stream has totally become my livelihood. So, just trying to be out here and entertain people. But let's see. If you go down to deep Ellum, put your money in your blues. Cause the women down in deep Ellum, they got those deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got those deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got those deep. Let me tell you now. Once I had a girlfriend, she meant the world to me. She went down to deep Ellum. She ain't what she used to be. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got those deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got those deep Ellum blues. some man and a chance. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got the fever blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got those deep bellum. Now that's what I knew a preacher. Preach the Bible through and through. Now he went down to deep bellum. Preaching days are through. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got the deep bellum. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got those deep got those deep bell blues.
Dig
There's
it.
Billy.
I like it. I'm back. That's a cool, funky version of that song.
Ah.
I like it.
You know, it's great because it kind of. I mean, the Dead certainly messed around with it, so you know, I don't have any problem getting groovy with it. We went through a lot of changes. You know,
not at
it's
all.
like the-
It
in the late '60s, they were doing it in a different key and a different feel. And then when they came back around and started doing it again, you know, it was like, oh, now we're in a different key and a whole different thing. So I kind of go somewhere in between there, you know.
cool. That was one thing that I liked about the Dead's their catalog. Their catalog from '65 through the end, even though you know there's some songs that remain through the whole catalog all the years. They ebbed and flowed the way they did them, and they like you know they're kind of a band that adapted to what was going on in the music scene. They kept their own vibe, but like you know you got to the late '70s, and all of a sudden it got disco-y, and then you got to the '80s, and it got a little you know little '80s sauce on it, and so cool. I like it. I like it. Hey, we were talking.
Totally.
There's something, an interesting story that we were talking about before we came on, was your work with Pearl, and I thought I love the I love the
yeah.
background. I love the background of that band, and all the people involved, and the Woodstock story. So you want to tell that story again? Because I love. I think everybody would like to hear it. Yeah.
I've been working. Let's see. Well, you know, just again, our wonderful community of people here in Los Angeles. And I owe this to my great drummer friend Luke Adams too, in a way. But this is actually a pretty wild flow of things. But one of my favorite bands in the world is Guided by Voices. They're just a life-changing experience for me. And Luke and I shared that deeply in common. And so in the late part of the aughts, we decided we really needed to do we need to go out and play some Guided by Voices music. And he had this friend, Zach Throne, who is just a phenomenal musician. I mean, his main thing is guitar, but, you know, just great at everything. And he's a killer singer. And he was on Beverly Hills 90210 for a spell. And then The Heights, he was on that show, The Heights, too. So talk about personal history.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's just a great dude. And so Pearl, you're not alone, and I think a lot of people just assume that that's like a Janis Joplin tribute band, but it's not. Her name is Pearl Aday, she has some incredible tie-ins with that kind of past, because her birth mom, her mom and her birth dad met in Woodstock in the late '60s, and her birth dad, was the last drummer that played with Janis Joplin. Um, so she was all up in that scene. There's a killer picture of Jimi Hendrix chatting up Pearl's mom on stage, like backstage at Woodstock. Like
Wow.
Jimmy had given her the look, and because she was a pretty foxy little blonde. And so anyway, Pearl got born. Their parents separated, and Pearl's mom fell in love with Meatloaf, and they got married. And so Pearl's dad was Meatloaf.
Yeah.
And she became a great singer, and started doing professional work. So she was Meat's backing vocalist for a spell, and then started working with Crew. She was one of the singers on stage with Motley Crue at their shows, and it was in this period of time where the Motley Crue had a bill with Anthrax, and she met Scott Ian, and they fell in love and got married. So Scott Ian from Anthrax is her husband, and so they love heavy stuff, obviously, yeah. But Pearl also has a huge love for country music and Americana and that kind of thing. So she wanted to have her own band, which she started right around there, I think 2006, 2007, and they did some touring and stuff. But then she had a baby. They have an adorable little 9-year-old, who's incredible. And basically, like around 2014, 2015, she wanted to finish up a new record. And they had gotten J.D. Maness, who is a total pedal steel legend. He actually replaced Tom Brumley in the Buckaroos, in Buck Owens' Buckaroos. But then he's on half of the Byrds' Sweethearts of the Rodeo. He's on Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton. I mean, he's done a lot of killer work. And so he had done a few songs for Pearl's second record. And she was getting to the point where she was going to do some live shows, and going out and playing in rock clubs in LA isn't exactly JD's thing. So she kind of put out to her friends that she was looking for a steel player, and Zach Throne from my Guided by Voices tribute band was playing bass with her at this point. I guess they're old friends. And so he recommended me, and it just worked out great because, so much of my past, I mean, I grew up in the hard rock 8. All I listened to was KNAC, so KNAC and Iron Maiden when I was 10. My first concert was the US Festival, Metal Day. I mean, that was what I was into,
Yeah.
So, getting to be in this band, I mean, like, at the time when we started, Zach was playing bass. Scott Ian was actually playing guitar in the band. We were doing shows like that. It was phenomenal. And then Scott ended up getting busy with Anthrax, so they switched the lineup around a little, where Zach came on guitar, which he's so good at anyway. And then they brought in Joey Vera from Armored Saint and Fate's Warning to play bass. And Joey is, I mean, like, when I was 11 or 10, I bought a very rare, their first record was like 500 copies on vinyl, and I have one of them. And,
Wow.
I always thought they were so cool. So, I was really into this. They're really good friends with Doug Pinnick from King's X, and so Doug comes to our shows and sits in with us sometimes, and
Cool.
that's been really fun. And then
you
we've
were
got
supposed
some
to play
stellar
Woodstock.
gigs,
You were supposed to play
Supposed to
Woodstock.
play Woodstock.
Not 69
Yeah,
Woodstock.
I cannot even. Yeah.
Not the
No,
yeah.
the big Woodstock that got canceled last year. And boy, what a heartbreaking scene that was. I mean, I've been pretty lucky with gigs. I've gotten to do some really stellar gigs in my life, but Woodstock, freaking Woodstock, nothing's bigger. And we got
the 50th anniversary.
What?
The 50th anniversary, right? Yeah.
50th anniversary. And check this out, because the whole thing was laid out. We had our slot and everything. They had put out the schedules for the days, and it hurts to even go back and think about this, but because their plan was they were having 4 stages, and 3 of them were like, hey, here are the big contemporary groups of the day, and then they were going to have a legacy stage that was the original people. Now, Dead and Company are so big and wonderful that they actually were going to be the headliners on one of the 3 main stages. But they were going to have this side stage where like Country Joe was going to play. And because of Pearl's Woodstock connection, I don't mean like she's using her connections to get on the gig, but because she has that in her past, Pearl was going to open the Woodstock stage on the day that Dead and Company were playing. So It was going to be us, Country Joe, John Sebastian, I think. I'm pretty sure he was going to play. And then David Crosby was the headliner for that stage. And then that ended, and we were going to go over and see Dead and Company.
Wow.
I mean, I'm getting tingles just talking about it. Like, I can't believe that was going to happen.
That would have been no. Well, if it's any consolation this year, nothing's happening.
I know. Well, again, with the robbery of incredible experiences, I was supposed to be Vince's special guest at Skull and Roses.
Oh,
and, yeah. So that burns just about as much, because that Saturday, we were scheduled for Saturday late afternoon. Like, we were kind of the first headlinery slot, and everybody that was playing after us is incredible. And all my favorite current contemporary musicians were going to be playing on the other days, and I imagined I would have had an all access pass for all the days. So
sure,
it doesn't get better than that for me. I mean, that was literally a dream,
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean,
it didn't get canceled, just got postponed till next year. It's just postponed.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Fingers crossed that Chris.
Fingers crossed. Well, people need to do stuff. This is an active campaign that everybody needs to be on. We need to not get other people sick. We need to stay home. I imagine I'll take a little heat for this too, but I really think that everybody needs to stay home more. And I know that us musicians, wear your masks, stay home. Us musicians need to play. It's in our soul, so we want to go out and play. But I know me as a leader, I'm not going to take a band out until this is done, because I don't want to be responsible for one person contracting this virus. And maybe nothing would happen, but maybe a bunch of people would get it, and I'm not willing to run that risk. And I actually just today read a thing with Bill Gates, and he thinks this is going to be with us until really, it's probably not going to go away until there is a vaccine for us to take. Maybe we could shut down, if we could shut down completely, but I think America's too big, and our demands as people are too vast. We need to go to markets. We need to go get food, so it's like there always has to be service workers. And of course, now we're in a financial mess anyway, but we have to squash this. It just has to stop, or we have to have a cure for it. Those are really the only 2 options. And it doesn't look like we're going to shut down. And it doesn't look like people want to shut down,
No.
the fact that willing to go out and do so much together, it's heartbreaking for me to watch. Even if they get sick or it's not a good role model. For people like need to think about staying at home and protecting each other.
Yeah, and at present there are thousands and thousands
Music.
of people heading. Yeah, at present there are thousands and thousands of people heading to Sturgis for the annual motorcycle rally, not ignoring anything.
God.
They're just well, let's go. 250,000 people are going to show up and party for a week, and it's if everybody could get on the same. I'd like to say if everybody could get on the same page, but half of us aren't even reading the same book.
Right, I know. And people, a lot of the anti-maskers will go, well, look at your rallies and you're protesting, but I mean, if you were watching Portland, every single person that showed up to those Portland rallies is wearing a heavy-duty mask. I mean, they were getting tear gassed. They weren't. Yeah. They might not have been worrying about the virus as much as they should have been, but those guys look like military. They're all wearing giant face masks. Nobody was contracting coronavirus there because they were all done up. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible to go out and have a good time in a mask, but people really need to do it, and otherwise, just, I mean, already our favorite clubs are going away, and when
you mentioned the Satellite
in a year. Satellite, St. Rock. There was a great place called House of Villains in downtown LA that closed down. That was sort of where all the new indie rock bands were playing. And what's scary about Satellite and St. Rock is there needs to be a venue that handles small, mid-sized touring bands.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a very important thing because there are venues where band, like maybe what's the next size up, the Roxy or something. You have to be a pretty established band with a a substantial following to even get a gig at the Whiskey or the Roxy. But places like St. Rock and Satellite were perfect for independent bands that were on the road that could pull in 150 or 100 people or 200 people. So the fact that those are the venues that are closing, that's a huge problem, because that means that whenever this gets to be safe enough for bands to actually get out and play, they're going to come to Los Angeles and they're not going to have a place to play. Like takes that special sized venue. They can't play a bar, they can't play the next level up. It's this mid-level club thing that's closing. So that's the real scary part of this.
Yeah, the 250 to 500 venue. The 250 to 500 venue that fits in that capacity, 250 to 500 people. That's that niche market that, your mints and your Moroccans and your those. Yeah. But I mean, Viper, but like you said, the ones along the strip, they're not going anywhere, but they're also not the most receptive to new. They like what it's hard to book the Viper Room or the Whiskey, even though those are those size venues. They're kind of also, they have that legendary status where Troubadour's having a hard time right now too.
I know. Oh man, if that place closes, I just don't even know. I mean,
that's been around since '62, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of leaves like the echo, but I mean, St. Rock was so cool because St. Rock specifically was catering to our community, our sort of hippie community, So like when the Mother Hips are going to go out and tour, that kind of became their LA spot, and they would find different places up here in LA, but I mean, they would always hit St. Rock. So, and obviously they're so welcoming to, even, our own Cubensis, so
they like the jam bands, but
like
they like a little bit of everything. But they definitely were very friendly to the jam community. They were open, and Alan Sanford, I wish him the best moving on to whatever he goes after this, but he's getting out, before he loses his ass, I guess. It's Saint Rock, Oh, anyway, well, any parting thoughts? We got about. Are you still there? You froze. You're there. There you are.
Yeah. Can you see?
I can
I'm
see
here.
I can see you. You were frozen for a second. We got about 3 minutes.
Oh.
Any parting thoughts that we want to touch on before we say goodbye to everybody? Anything we didn't talk about
Just,
that you want to talk about?
I'm just thrilled that you had me on as a guest. I've been watching the show and
Thank you.
was kind of hoping like maybe I'll get my call. Maybe I'll get to come on. So
Wow.
it's a real be a
It
guest.
was-
I mean,
It's absolutely my pleasure. And for those who missed it earlier, go to facebook.com. It's on your screen right now. Joe Martin, I play pedal steel. On Tuesdays, I know Tuesdays, Fridays, definitely, right? What's the other day?
Oh yeah, so Friday's my big Friday freak out.
After Nate.
Partnered up with my pals at NASA and JPL, and they shoot me to the first level orbit, and I broadcast from the lower levels of outer space, putting hippies in space. So that's Friday. That happens every Friday, right after Nate LaPointe's amazing show. And then Tuesday afternoon here on Facebook, I do Tuesday Tunes and Loops. And this Tuesday is a special Jerry Garcia tribute, for Days Between. So I'm doing Working Man's Dead in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
And incidentally, last Tuesday I did American Beauty in its entirety, and that is up on my music Facebook page. You can go see all these performances are still archived and up there. And that was a really fun one. And then also I do an Instagram show, if you're on Instagram, every Thursday at p.m. 3 PST, and normally on Saturdays I do a Twitch show at 3 p.m. PST. But when Billy Sunday puts the call out, I listen.
I'm glad you canceled their Twitch show.
Yeah, stand back, Twitch. I have bigger fish to fry today. So
excellent.
But normally that happens.
Yeah, and if I'll put it back up for anybody, if you want to donate, you can scan the QR codes on your screen. Those will go to me, which I will then distribute accordingly to Joel. Or you can donate directly. He's a hardworking guy. He's one of the best pedal steel players in LA, and if not all of Southern California. And you are among a group of a small group who do it very well. And I can't wait till we can get out and see you do it again live.
It'll happen. Just
I know.
Who knows when? I don't know, but I gotta say there are some really exciting things that I've got going on. This is kind of pushing me to do some more home recording, and then
cool.
Right now also, I only have my little phone that I'm doing all this stuff on, and so I'm when this started, who knew what we were going to be doing? It seemed like, oh well, we'll be doing these live streams for a month or 2 months or something. But now that we're in it, I'm finding it worthwhile to make some upgrades. So we'll be doing more Venmo, or I'll be doing some Patreon stuff. I think special videos and just sort of upgrading the live experience here as well. And then also, for people that are like I'm also really into the progressive rock scene, and Genesis is one of my favorite things in the world. Just particularly the '70s stuff and the Peter Gabriel stuff. And there's a Dave Kersner, the great keyboardist that played with Kevin Gilbert. If people know Kevin Gilbert, Dave is producing a Genesis tribute record with a pal of mine, Fernando Perdomo. And I'm featured prominently on that when that comes out. So,
I love that.
And that has some big names on it, which I can't name about. But it's cool. Like I've got one track that's on the actual CD as an artist. I've got another track that is going to be sort of a digital B-side, and then I'm playing steel on 2 songs, steel guitar on a Genesis record with Fernando on a couple songs, and it's really fun. Really turned out good.
That's awesome.
And then also, yeah, and the one thing that I have missed, that I haven't put in line because I'm just sort of all over the place, like, I haven't been a band leader in a little while, but I have a history of material and stuff, and then I'm going to be putting out some new material. So I'm going to launch kind of a new web store with actual stuff that you can buy from me, because I don't really have that in place right now at the moment. Especially, I had a bunch of recordings, older stuff that was on CD Baby, but now they've taken their store down. So that stuff isn't. I mean, I have stuff on iTunes, but it's not really stuff that's reflective of my jam band or even pedal steel experiences. Because when I had the money to put records out, I wasn't really playing too much steel. So. Or it wasn't the focus. So, that's all stuff that's going to be happening in the next few weeks. So if you, are new to the Joel Martin experience and enjoyed this, come on over and friend me up, and we'll keep you abreast of all this good future stuff that's going to go down.
Fantastic. And make those donations. Let's try and get $500 to $750 in donations, something like that, to Joel, so let's get that money up so he can get himself a laptop and some new gear, so make his stream solid and everything, make us clean it up, and I love it. I love you. I will see you before too long, I hope, and I will see all of the rest of you. I'll see the rest of you next Saturday when we do this all over again. And I'll announce this week who the guest is. I got an idea, but I haven't talked to him yet. But we've been talking for a couple weeks. And I think you might find it interesting. I don't think it's going to be a musician. I think it's going to be somebody else from the music world. But I'll keep that secret till I announce it. Thank you all for tuning in to Shakedown News Live here on Saturday. Again, my name's Billy Sunday. And we've been here with Joel Martin, the pedal steel the master of the pedal steel, the man, the myth, the legend. I will see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and the follow button on Periscope and Facebook. And we'll see you next time. And we're